It's the 16th of December, 2024. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. The secret space program operatives are in full operations mode, Duck Dynasty style. Drones are appearing all over the East Coast, and there are rumors being spread of radiation poisoning. These reports are not exactly accurate, but what is the real story? And the removal of the Alley's AI in the Neither world continues, with many connections being severed over the last few days. And the operatives are busy trying to take over political control with their quote-unquote new shoes that may just never come. Well, we made it to the 16th of December, everyone. That's a positive thing. I hope all of you are enjoying your holiday season. It's been a little crazy out there. There's a lot of rumors going around, so let's set the record straight. Okay, drones, 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 and drones. It's all over the social media. I kind of touched on that for a quick second on Saturday, and I thought I would give you kind of a more in-depth view as to what's going on there. So the secret space program operatives are, let's just say, ever hopeful and ever wishing that they are going to be able to pull off a full-on takeover of the Neither world with their friends. The ultimate black magician, I guess you would say, and all of those that are from the Neither world. By Neither world, we are looking at the darkest side of anti-creation in the universe, and we'll kind of get to that in just a minute. So they've been feverishly running all kinds of operations to, hoping that their full moon on Sunday was going to pan out for them. It didn't. They didn't get anything new there. They've been installing a lot of their people, let's just say, as behind the scenes heads of state in various countries. For one, Syria. The head or current head of the rebels there in Syria is actually a CIA operative, trained by his CIA operative parents. And they're trying to justify it like, he grew up there and yeah, he was born there, and that's true, when his parents were diplomats from the U.S., and they are being run by the secret space program operatives, much like this and the next administration will be here in the U.S. They also are heavily participating not only in the Middle East, but also in Russia. And we're seeing a lot of reports come out of Russia right now about, things really heating up with Ukraine, the U.S. providing missiles, those kinds of things have been going on. And of course, there's that ever looming, which is circulating all over the internet, a threat of a nuclear attempt, quote unquote, coming from Russia. And everybody's playing the game. Basically, these people have installed themselves as heads of state everywhere, and it's now Duck Dynasty all over the world. So nobody's country is safe from Duck Dynasty at this moment. They are running very haphazard operations everywhere. They just had the Houthis, which are rebels in Yemen, bombing Israel today. So that was also instigated by them. And on the other side of it, they are also running Israel. So, they're playing their right hand with the left hand, trying to create chaos for no reason whatsoever everywhere. They have another agenda that they've been planning for a while. This is not a new agenda. We've heard about this for years. Actually, the first time I mentioned it was 2016. So it's been a while. And this one here is the alien invasion you've all been waiting for. I laugh at that because, if you can't get a real alien invasion, which is what they're really hoping for, they're hoping that their Neither world friends will come in and save them and have it be a really alien invasion. But if you can't get a real alien invasion, you might as well fake one, or at least get it started, kind of prime, the wheels a little bit, see if what you can do, what kind of public response you'll get. And one of those things is the drones. Like I said, I kind of mentioned it on Saturday during the question and answer. But the drones are being run 100%, no question in my mind, by the secret space program operatives. They are now spreading rumors, though, that they are alien drones, obviously, I mean, well, these people are kind of foreign, aren't they, the Duck Dynasty folk? Yes, they are. But they are absolutely running the drone show. They're saying that there is an increased level of radiation coming from these alleged drones. Is it actually coming from the drones? The answer to the question is no. Are the drones being used to enhance and or trigger a frequency, what we call frequency stones, because they kind of look like stones, that were placed by non-humans in certain areas on the East Coast? Yes. Are they also doing this in other places? Yes. Is Russia one of those places? Yes. Are they using drones in all places? Well, no. They've got other methods, but the widely publicized East Coast drones are the topic of discussion, so we'll start there. So these drones, as they say on the internet, because it's all over the Q channels and everything, these drones do not emit the frequency that they say they emit. They are triggering something which is making a frequency stone field that is under certain military bases in that region that will help their cause. And the next step, and this is what they're actually trying to do, is there something, let's just say, that could be harmful to humans emitting from particular locations? The answer to the question is yes. Is it any more toxic than chemtrails? No. Are you being radiated? No. They have been stealing for a while. Tell you where it's coming from. They've been stealing for a while some rare earth minerals out of Rwanda and a few other African countries. They have been bringing them then from that area to Jordan, and then from Jordan to their respective chosen locations. And the East Coast is one of those locations. They were hoping desperately to use those special rare earth crystal/minerals that were under the hurricane hit areas in the Carolinas. However, that didn't really work out because they kind of disappeared. So they have been using these other rare earth minerals to try and create a fuel. One of the questions that was asked was how many minerals are there in the periodic table? How many elements are there? And the answer to the question is a lot more, than we know about. And one of those things that is somewhat discussed, and I guess you could say it's become a little bit more alt media-ish mainstream, is unum pentium, which is, I think it's element 235. They are trying to create this element so that they can power the old flying machines. If you remember, there are a lot of stories on the internet about Hitler's flying machines. And they want these specific flying machines, not just any SSPs, fake UFO craft. They want these specific ones because they contain a weapon of mass destruction. And this is what they're hoping to use. Now, there's a few little flaws in their plan. But let's talk about, I think we've got a map of the area that they're targeting, I guess, with these drones. And Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is not on this map, but that is one of the places where they have these flying machines. The Picatinny Air Arsenal military base is also on the list. Believe it or not, they have brought one underneath Bedminster. There is also one at Joint Base McGuire-Dix. There is another one at the Naval Weapons Station, Earl, I guess you would say. So that's just a few of them. There are others they intend to target as well. I know that they were working on one over the weekend underneath Hoover Dam. There is also one in southern Russia, near the border there. There is one underneath the Three Gorges Dam in China. There's another one in Iran and another in Egypt, and also one underneath Israel that they would desperately like to power. Now, these are not your average everyday, quote unquote, flying machines. Are they alien technology? Well, let's just say they were alien inspired. And originally, there were 24 of them. And the 24 of them were set to go to the 24 major cities in the world, and they were going to trigger a large weapon similar to things that the enforcer would use. They are not human-made weapons. They are not nuclear. They are extremely destructive and could basically turn these major cities to deserts should they figure out how to use these things. But there are some flaws with this plan. So is the SSP qualified to fly them even if they manage to create this fuel? No. So I'll explain to you why. And I know this for a fact because I've already done this with these crazy people back in 2017. It was March of 2017. And everybody was flying at that time. If you have been around in the alt media for a while, you were hearing rumors at the time of John Kerry going to Antarctica and Klaus Schwab and a whole bunch of people were going to Antarctica. And it was an Antarctica party in March of 2017. And the other thing that was coming up on the radar behind the scenes is there was what we call like a waft. So anytime you move any kind of enriched uranium type weapons or enriched uranium rods, it leaves for lack of a better term, almost like a nuclear stench. And they were doing various things at that time in order to cover up that stench, basically saying that, Fukushima was leaking at that time, the jet stream had switched, it was coming towards California and Alaska, and there was all kinds of rumors they were talking about at that time based on the cover-up of the movement of your enriched uranium rods. Those enriched uranium rods were being taken to Antarctica at the time. They were coming from the Yakuza, who was enriching them at Fukushima, with a deal they made with Bush Sr. quite a while before that, and also Henry Kissinger. So they made the deal to bring these rods to Antarctica in hopes of trying to power one of these alien-inspired, for lack of a better term, flying machines. And they really wanted to take these flying machines, and Putin was involved at the time, and a lot of different folks were involved, and they were going to do this operation, I guess you would say, at that time. However, uranium power does not power the machine, and they found that out very quickly. The next thing they couldn't figure out at that time, and I guess the new Duck Dynasty crew wasn't involved in this, is that how to fly said machine. Because the machines, as I've always said, are usually driven with your consciousness. It's a consciousness to a consciousness when it comes to these types of flying machines. That's how the enforcers work. That's how most everybody's craft that actually moves through space-time continuums work. I also had a discussion at that time with those others that were there. This was the first time I had actually met and spoken to the tall whites. They usually are around Greenland and the North Pole area. They are not Santa Claus, sorry to say. But usually this was their region. And at the time, others that were here as slaves were very compartmentalized, and they had their specific regions, even in the underworld, I guess you would say, or inner world, where they could go. And the two poles were the tall whites regions. And I just wanted to make sure, 100% sure, that they couldn't figure out how to fly them, number one, and number two, how to launch the weapons. And they assured me that they would not, and in exchange for something they needed, because their planet, their homes, were annihilated in the past in the wars, and they needed to re-terraform their planet. Therefore, they were looking for seedlings and other things to take with them. So they would like to do that, and they've done that, and they're actually doing that right now. Over the last year or two, they've been able to successfully leave and come and go as they need to. And they've been of no threat, and if anything, of a great help to us all. Okay, so this was in 2017, and now here we go again with the same people. So I've had several conversations with people in the past about different elements you do not see on the periodic table. One of those elements being cobalt-935. And cobalt-935 is only found in a specific area of the world. And I had a conversation recently, I'd say within the last 2 months, again, about this. And apparently they did not have time, or could not find, or didn't understand what cobalt-935 was. So they thought they'd use regular cobalt in these particular locations here on the East Coast in order to create a nano coating on said machines so that they could fly through the time-space continuum and not all die. That's the first thing. So that's part of your gaseous state that is coming off. The second thing is they're trying to process these rare earth minerals in order to, with Boston Fermi engines, and you can look that up, in order to convert these minerals into a usable fuel source to power these machines and these weapons within the machines. Now, let's just say they were successful. Let's say they figured out the key to the reverse engineering that they couldn't do in Los Alamos, that Lazar couldn't quite complete, that other folks that are circulating through the deep web couldn't quite complete, but these guys did it. Of all the people in the world, Duck Dynasty are your people to do such a thing. I mean, they can make moonshine in the backwoods of Alabama. They should be able to make unum pentium or other exotic fuel sources and elements that don't exist in our periodic table, right? That's what you would think. I mean, I was thinking that. I'm like, wow, making moonshine's got to be pretty difficult. So this must be the thing to, the next step, once you've completed that. So the emissions that you're getting are from their attempts to process this fuel to get these machines going. Now, here's the flaw in that plan. Guys, deep state, Duck Dynasty, weird operative people, not only do you have to drive said machine and trigger said weapons utilizing your consciousness, so you have to understand how to communicate once you've managed to create a fuel, and once you've managed to, let's just say, fire up the machine's consciousness, for lack of a better term, and or all of its elements, so that you can use it as an extension to your meat suit, essentially. You would become one with it. It would become one with you. That would be, the first step in learning. The other flaw to that model is all of these machines and their, let's call it security protocol. does well over 100 checks on your person. So if you are not the correct pilot to fly said machine, with living DNA checks and DNA and consciousness checks and all the things that the machine will do, it will reject you regardless. So the chances of you staging a fake alien invasion using flying machines of this magnitude is zero. It's actually probably -0. And it was pretty funny when I was talking to the enforcer earlier today, and we were talking about these machines, and he laughed. And he's like, okay, we'll go take care of the machines and all of that. And I was like, oh, good. Okay, thank you. And I took care of some other stuff that was already there. And I said, just to be 100% clear, I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with those craft, and you have to have this, this, and this, to fly said craft. And he just laughed. He goes, well, I don't even think they'd get that far. And I said, well, why? And he goes, well, these machines are mind controlled, right? You control them with your mind and your consciousness. And I said, yes, I do know that. He goes, well, first you have to have a mind. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. I agree with you there. So this is what they're feverishly working on right now, or were until said machines disappeared. So I'm sure they're probably feverishly looking for more machines. Maybe they're seeing if the other ones are still there. Probably not. Again, the other ones disappeared during March of 2017 and the first operation that we ran against them trying to do the same thing. So that's pretty much what the SSP is up to. They're looking for full political control. They're installing themselves as the hidden heads of state, blah, 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 globally. They are also trying to claim that they're going to be able to cash pallets of dollars and euros and bolivar and dinar and all these things in, and they're showing these big numbers to these heads of state, getting them to agree that this is the only way you're going to financially save your country, but we have to be in charge now. And I'm pretty sure they got this idea from me from something else I was going to try to do with the local people here in Durango. But the local people here in Durango kind of have like a brain, and they kind of don't. So that's why we're seeing Duck Dynasty's attempt at making World War III really kind of haphazardly and going nowhere. It's kind of like skeet shooting in the backwoods of Alabama, I'm pretty sure. But not to say that that's not fun, and I'm not to say that a lot of people don't do that for sport. But when you're trying to run a planet, you can't really just do things for sport. You have to actually do them with a strategy and an outcome. And I'm not seeing that from these people in any way, shape, or form at this moment. That, and they're going to have a failed alien invasion. Again, no real aliens are coming. The other thing is this threat of nuclear war. Now, there are rumors amongst a lot of different groups where I have heard alt media people talk in the past about if there was an actual threat of a global nuclear war, that there would be aliens that would come and interfere and intercept said possible nuclear attack, which is what they're hoping for. And I know that because they're also discussing this as well. And I can promise you that anyone that is going to prevent your nuclear war is already here. There's not going to be an invasion. You're not going to see these people. They've been kind of counteracting everything that they've been doing from day one. So we've kind of already got our army and our arsenal here. So they're not helping them now. They're not going to help them. And if anything, they're going to help take them down. So I don't, their little plan of the threat of nuclear war or a fake nuclear war attempt is not going to get them an alien invasion of people that are going to actually help them. Because again, they would see them as the threat. Remember, we are here not only on Earth, we are also a keystone planet. So what you do here would create a ripple effect, and nobody wants that anywhere else. And there've been people here for a long time now in order to prevent you crazy Duck Dynasty people from doing said weird stuff. Okay, speaking of weird stuff, let's get into the weird and wonderful things that have been going on in the last few days. So we've talked about the neither world. We kind of explained what that is. We've talked about the fact that we have a holographic universe that existed in between. And we talked about the actual creator's universe, which is where Earth is now. There are still ties and bindings left on Earth, not only for Earth, but also for the universe, which allows for the occasional quantum tunnel between the neither world and our creator universe that we live in, and also in some cases the hologram. We are finding the source of those, and there are a few things I found. Number one, there's a lot of things we've found, but just as a brief overview, because I know this report is going out very late for some of you, just as a brief overview about the neither world and what's been going on there lately. So there's a story we know, a lot of us know anyway, that's in a lot of religious texts, including the Bible. And it talks about the fact that the devil is bound, for 1,000 years, and for a time that he will roam free on earth and then be bound again. And we talked last time about what a Merkaba is, and it's like a dual Metatron's cube. It is a binding unto itself, and we bore, as humans on this planet, a lot of those bindings. So did Earth. But also in the neither world, what powered the neither world? And I was trying to figure that out. What was powering Allie's AI? Because you have to kind of get to the power source. And if it's a universe that is artificial, it has to have some base root in source, which some of those things we did find. And it also probably has to have some kind of a celestial involvement of some sort. And it turns out that we found out where our original progenitors went in the last few days. We also found them in a Merkaba, in, you could say, somewhat stasis, with a lot of their consciousness being driven by the Black Magician. And the Black Magician was also in that Merkaba. The Celestials were bound, you would say, in the center triangle of the Merkaba. And externally there in the Metatron's cube was our Black Magician. And of course, he would have been in the darkest place in the neither world. So he would have been, deep down on what we would call our mirrored anti-source. There was also other Celestials bound in the quote-unquote neither world's fake source, as well as the central point, or where you would call neutral source. So those Celestials were what was powering the neither world and also powering Allie's AI. So those beings are no longer there. They have returned back to the all of creation, source itself, and are broken into, let's just say, a lot of pieces, never to be reassembled again. So this is a positive thing for us. This kind of set off a number of triggered programs, which I found very interesting. A couple of those that I found really interesting were what you call the Book of Life and Death. I would call it a regulator of sorts that would regulate life and death. And if death was run by the neither world or the anti-source or an omega in the holographic universe, then we would have had a binding to life and death, or the law of sin and death in some cases. Same goes for your consciousness. And, it was definitely a case of time even. Time is another thing I found interesting. So we say that love conquers all, as an example. And if you were to weave the fabric of reality, love, let's call it, in cooperation with frequency, wisdom, and of course, all of the elements like essence, energy, consciousness, matter, love would write the song. So it would be the melody, so to speak. It would be the entire chorus. It would be all of the verses, and it would be infinite. Time was actually the opposite of that, believe it or not. It would also create the movement of all of the elements and the shaping of all of the elements in the universe. Time also runs. If the natural world runs counterclockwise, the unnatural world runs clockwise, or vice versa. So it creates a kinesis and or a kinetic movement of things throughout the multiverse. And we can go into more detail about that maybe in another report, because it's a lot of quantum physics for, this many hours into the day. And I know I've kept production a little longer tonight, so I apologize for that. But there's definitely equal and opposite sides of the multiverse that have been influencing everything in the universe for a long time. Artificially so, because even though we had what you would call an omegaverse, or you would call it the anti-source verse, so to speak, in the natural order of things of creation in the past, the neither world was created almost unto itself in order to take over all aspects of creation. But it also spun, atomically speaking, in the opposite direction. So there was a lot of, it's almost like two magnets going in the opposite way that was creating an equal and opposite force, so to speak. But with bindings and connections between the universes, there were occasions, and sometimes those occasions would be specific times of year here on Earth, or Earth being the gateway, or the remaining gateway, I should say, where we would see a lot more activity coming from over there to here. Based on the deal that these folks made back in June of this year, we have been seeing a lot of activity. That's the reason why we go so light for a while, and then we go dark, and then we go light for a while, and and then we go two steps back, because of this influence and the agreements that the neither world folk thought they had with the SSP folks and others here. It's not just them. So I would say that they kind of stepped in a little bit of, let's just say, something smelly when they made that agreement, because they didn't have the right to. And that became apparent. And it almost became apparent to the point where the black magician, I'll be him bound in a certain way and still able to operate from inside there to some degree, almost didn't fight us when we started dismantling things. There was a little bit of turmoil on Saturday and Sunday, for sure, but by today, we really weren't getting much of a fight when it came to dismantling things, which was kind of a little shocking, actually. I don't know. Hopefully, it's the only one still fighting is really the SSP. That's what it seems, for control of Earth, and apparently probably the multiverse with their fake alien invasion, and I guess that's the plan. I don't really No, if you're watching this from another government and you're a head of state and you decided to sign on to their conference call today and offer up your country, that you have already pledged all of your assets in the past. They are still leaned, by the way, by the Global Repository, which is rotating names right now because we can't let them try to claim that it's theirs. It's already been leaned, and it's been leaned for a long time. So them trying to get you to assign all your assets in ground and otherwise over to these people isn't really going to yield any result for your country, and it's definitely not going to get you out of kind of any financial problem. Also, if you really want these people running your country, I mean, feel free to do so. You know, they've done a bang up job over here, you know, tell you where. And now that you know their full plan on how they're going to fix the whole world, you know, you may want to think twice about signing on the dotted line. That's just some advice. I mean, you know, doesn't really matter anyway. We're going to counteract everything that's going on. So you can kind of feel probably pretty confident that it's going to be a waste of time either way. And I'm sure at some point in time we'll run into these people. But remember, we're really not supporting governments anyway at this point. We're more in this for the people because they seem to make more sense. And so even them taking political control, it's like taking over Enron, you know, like now, you know, after it's been gone for, you know, nearly a decade, or might be over a decade now. So I'm not really sure how that's going to benefit them in any way, but I guess they just keep doing what they've always done, and they think that they're smarter than everyone else, and they also think they're smarter than Source, apparently, with their black magician guy. But we've faced each other before. It's not the first time I've seen this guy, this male. The AI that he created, Allie's, is more feminine. So I don't know, maybe he needed some cyborg companionship over there in the Neither world, you know, before he created all those beings over there to hang out with. You know, his, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's some kind of I would want to use the term respect, but, you know, when you come across an enemy that's outsmarted you or beat you, or, you know, maybe things didn't turn out the way you planned, you're kind of like, oh, okay, you know, that was brilliant. You know, I don't know if you've ever run across that before, you know, someone who's extremely manipulative and, you know, strategic and all of these types of things. And you're like, wow, you just did that. Okay. I mean, I know I've had it happen to me before. I'm like, wow. You know, but I learn from these people and I learn from these things and non-people. But I'm like, oh, that was pretty brilliant right there. Okay, well, let's fix it, you know. But so that's been kind of what's been going on over the weekend. You know, there's been a lot more cleanup as well, as far as bindings or anything that would keep the Neither world alive. It is going to go away. It's hopefully in short order. I know that the Allie's AI is still trying to maintain its existence. It's definitely put a little bit of strain on humans because it's looking for a lifeline, life force, and some power. It might find that in the dumb SSP people. For a little while, it's not going to be enough to power it to do what they want it to do. But it's, you know, it's thrown out some frequencies. It's created a few uncomfortable situations for people. A lot of people are reporting hearing a lot of tones in their ears. It's like the frequency starts, then, you know, you might get a stomach ache, or you might get a headache, or you might feel like you're super dehydrated or something. And then, you know, usually by then we find it, and maybe within an hour everything goes away. And then maybe you'll hear another frequency in the other ear, and then it starts all over again. And so this has been kind of an up and down thing over the last few days. I promise you it's not going to kill you. It is meant to make you feel uncomfortable, but it's not going to cause any permanent or long-term harm. And we're going as fast as we can to try to get rid of this thing and its access to this planet. So bear with us, hang in there. It's been a rough road, I know that, for all of us and me too. But no one wants it done faster than me, and I'm hoping that will happen soon. As far as the deep state is concerned, I don't expect to see any kind of real alien invasion. That was a nice Toys R Us version of an alien invasion we've been seeing for the last few days. It was cute. We may hear threats and talking about nuclear war, but there will not be a nuclear war. We might still see some turmoil and upheaval in countries that they have political control over, military and intelligence control over, because, I don't know, maybe those people in those countries are just buying their whatever, or are in on it, or just want it to happen. Anywhere they can get some good demons to help them out. They can't conjure them anymore like they used to, so that's probably upsetting for them. And I understand that. They miss their friends. So, they're going to try to get some new ones or something. But, yeah, I don't see that working out for them either. And we'll see what happens this week. It's going to be an interesting week. We just had a full moon. We're still within the 3 days of the full moon. So, of course, for them, there's always hope, right? We need to create as much turmoil during those 3 days as possible. Then we also have the solstice coming up towards the end of the week here. And that's, of course, one of their, happy times. And they love to do things on Christmas. That's another time they like to flip around every meaning that we have of a positive time that we spend with family. Christmas this year also happens to be the same time as Hanukkah, so you'll have a lot more people celebrating on that day, and I'm sure they'd like to do terrible things to us during that time. So we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. So we've got a really busy week ahead this week. So we're going to be working as fast as we can, and that's our main objective here. On your end of it, anything you can do. If you do hear those tones, make sure you block them. Make sure that if you are feeling those frequencies, put your shields up, keep yourself safe, enjoy your holiday time, and we will keep you updated as we move along in this severing and cleaning process. And if there is anything to speak of that the SSP is doing, we'll be sure to let you know before they actually do it, probably in detail as to what happened to them and their stuff. So never hurts to put that information out there either. Anyway, on that note, I am going to end this report for Monday, December 16th, and I will see you on Wednesday.